Please make sure to subscribe to our channel for more English stories. Many people want to speak English well. I remember being a young student, just like you. I wanted to be fluent, but I was shy and often made mistakes. One day, my teacher told me something that changed my life. If you practice every day, you will become fluent. That simple sentence stayed with me. I understood that if you want something, you have to work hard for it. Learning to speak English smoothly does not happen in one day. It is just like growing a tree. First, you plant the seed, then you water it and give it sunlight. Every day you take care of it, and over time, the tree grows tall and strong. The same thing happens when you learn a language. One afternoon, a student came to me looking sad. "Teacher, I want to speak English, but I keep forgetting words," she said. I gave her a warm smile and said, "That is okay. Fluency does not mean knowing every word. It is about practicing regularly." Her eyes lit up with hope as she asked, "But how do I practice?" I answered, "There are chances to practice everywhere. Talk to your friends, listen to stories, and sing songs. You can practice at any time." When I was in school, I loved stories. Every night, I listened to them. My teacher would read out loud, and I would repeat after her. At first, I was very slow, but as I practiced, I became faster and more confident. One day, another student asked, "Teacher, does speaking fast make someone fluent?" I shook my head and said no. The key to fluency is speaking clearly. What matters is that people understand you, not how fast you speak. There was a boy in my class who always spoke too quickly, and nobody understood him. I told him, "Take your time. Speak clearly. Use simple words." He listened, and soon, his speech was easy to follow. His confidence grew, and he started enjoying speaking English. Fluency is like a long journey. You move forward step by step. There is no need to hurry. Just enjoy the process. One day, you will look back and see how much you have improved. I have met many students who were nervous about speaking, but with regular practice, they became fluent speakers. There is one simple secret to fluency: listening. Listen to English speakers as often as you can. Listen to stories, music, and conversations. The more you listen, the faster you will learn. I knew a girl who loved music. She listened to English songs every day. Before long, she started singing along. Without even realizing it, her English improved because she was hearing and repeating words. Another important lesson is not being afraid to make mistakes. I had a student who was too nervous to speak. She thought people would laugh at her. I told her, "Mistakes help us learn. Every mistake teaches you something new." One day, she finally spoke in class. She made a lot of mistakes, but she kept going. Over time, she got better. She came to me and said, "Teacher, I'm not afraid anymore." That was the moment she truly started improving. Fluency is also about thinking in English. When you think in English, speaking becomes more natural. I had a student who always translated words in his head before speaking. This made him slow and unsure. I told him, "Try thinking in English, even when you are alone." He gave it a try, and little by little, he became more fluent. There was another student who really liked to talk. He could talk about any topic and enjoyed long conversations. However, he had one issue. he would begin speaking in English but then switch back to his first language. I advised him, try to stay in English. Even if you don't know a word, describe it in English. This helped him concentrate, and soon he was able to speak completely in English. Another great way to improve fluency is through reading. When you read, you see how words and sentences fit together. You also learn new vocabulary. I remember when I was learning English, I chose simple books to read. Each time I saw an unfamiliar word, I wrote it in my notebook. After that, I would make a sentence using the new word. This method helped me remember the words and use them naturally in conversation. One day, a student approached me holding a book. She said, "Teacher, I read this book, but I could not understand everything." I told her, that is normal. The more you read, the better you will understand. She continued to read daily. After some time, she returned to me and said, "Now I understand much more." Her fluency improved because she spent time reading and learning new things every day. Another important part of fluency is listening to yourself. Sometimes you should record yourself speaking and then listen to it to identify areas where you can do better. I once had a student who did this regularly. She recorded herself reading a story aloud and then played it back to check for mistakes. She noticed things she needed to work on, and this practice made her more aware of how she spoke. Over time, she became much more fluent. Practicing with a friend is also a great way to improve fluency. I had two students who were very close friends. They made a plan to speak only in English when talking to each other. Every day, they had conversations in English, helping one another with words they did not know. As time passed, both of them became very fluent. They enjoyed learning together and had fun during the process. Using English in real-life situations is another important step toward fluency. If you go to a store, try speaking in English. When you are with friends, use English in your conversations. The more you speak the language, the better you become at it. I once had a student who worked in a small store. He made the decision to speak only in English with his customers. At first, it was hard for him, but over time, his confidence grew and he became much more fluent. Fluency also requires curiosity. When you come across a word you don't know, do not ignore it. Find out what it means and try to use it in your next conversation. I once had a student who was very eager to learn. Whenever he heard a word he did not recognize, he asked me what it meant. Then, he would try to use that word as often as possible in his conversations. Because of this, his vocabulary expanded quickly, and his fluency improved as well. Having a goal is also very important. Ask yourself, why do I want to be fluent in English? When you have a clear reason, you will feel more motivated. I knew a student whose goal was to visit an English-speaking country. She wanted to be able to communicate well when she traveled. Because of this, she practiced speaking English every single day. Her goal kept her focused, and before her trip, she had already become fluent. I also encourage my students to enjoy the learning process. Fluency does not happen overnight. It takes time. However, when you enjoy the journey, it becomes easier. I once had a student who loved watching English movies. He made it a habit to watch one movie every evening. At first, he relied on subtitles, but as time went on, he started watching without them. He enjoyed the movies and at the same time, he was improving his fluency. Fluency improves with practice. The more you repeat something, the better you get. I remember a student who enjoyed repeating sentences. Whenever he heard a sentence in class, he would say it again and again. This made it easier for him to remember, and before long, he started using those sentences in everyday conversations. Talking to different people is another way to improve fluency. Each person speaks in a unique way. When you interact with many people, you pick up different speaking styles. I once had a student who was very quiet. He only spoke to me and avoided talking to others. I encouraged him to have conversations with his classmates. Over time, he became more confident and spoke English more fluently. Fluency is like a long journey. It requires practice, patience, and determination. If you enjoy the process, one day you will realize that you have reached your goal. At first, my student felt nervous, but as time went by, he became more at ease. He discovered new ways to express himself, and his speaking ability got better. It can be helpful to practice talking about things that interest you. When you discuss topics you love, you feel more engaged, and words come more naturally. I once had a student who was passionate about football. Every day, he would talk to me about the game. Since football excited him, he had more to say. This daily habit helped him improve his fluency because he was always speaking English. Fluency also comes from accepting that it is okay not to know every word. Sometimes, you may not remember a word, and that is fine. Try to explain it in another way. I had a student who always wanted to know the exact words for everything. If he could not remember the right word, he would stop speaking. I told him, if you don't know the word, try to describe it. This made it easier for him to continue conversations, even when he forgot certain words. One day, a student asked me, "Teacher, how long does it take to become fluent?" I explained that fluency depends on how much someone practices. Some people reach fluency in just a few months, while others take longer. The key is to keep going and never stop. This student made sure to practice daily, and soon he noticed real progress. Sometimes, practicing in front of a mirror is useful. When you see yourself speaking, you become more aware of your facial expressions and body movements. I had a student who was very shy. She did not feel comfortable speaking in front of other people. I suggested that she practice speaking in front of a mirror. This exercise made her more confident, and in time, she was able to speak English fluently. Another student once asked, "Teacher, what should I do if I forget a word while talking?" I told him, do not stop speaking. Keep going. Sometimes, the word will come back to you later. If not, use a different word. This advice helped him stay calm during conversations, and he no longer worried about forgetting words. It is also important to take breaks. Your brain needs time to rest. After long hours of practicing, it is a good idea to relax. I knew a student who practiced all the time. She became exhausted and started feeling frustrated. I told her, take a break. Rest, and come back tomorrow with a fresh mind. After allowing herself time to relax, she felt much better, and her fluency continued to improve. Fluency is also about using English in fun and creative ways. You can write a short story, sing a song, or even make a video. I once had a student who loved writing. Every day, she would write short stories in English. This practice helped her learn new words and sentence structures. Later, she started reading her stories aloud, which made her speaking skills even better. Another useful way to improve is by teaching someone else. When you explain something to others, you understand it even better. I had a student who spoke English very well. She decided to help her classmates who were not as fluent. She would teach them new vocabulary and practice speaking with them. This helped her friends improve, but it also made her even more confident in speaking. Having a daily routine can also be helpful. Choose a time each day to practice speaking English. I had a student who practiced for 30 minutes every morning. He followed this schedule without missing a day, and after some time, his fluency improved. A routine helps you stay focused and ensures that you practice often. Being patient with yourself is also important. Learning to speak well takes time. I once had a student who was very impatient. He wanted to be fluent quickly, but when he did not see fast results, he became frustrated. I told him, "Be patient. You are improving, even if you don't notice it yet." He followed my advice and kept practicing. Over time, he started seeing results and gained more confidence. Fluency is not only about speaking. Listening is just as important. When you listen carefully, you learn how to reply correctly. I had a student who was an excellent listener. He always paid close attention before responding. Because of this, his answers were always clear and well-formed. Listening plays a big role in learning to speak fluently. Another key point is to remain positive. Learning a new language can be difficult, but having a good attitude makes the process easier. I had a student who always kept a positive mindset. Even when she made mistakes, she smiled and tried again. Because of this, she stayed motivated and eventually became fluent. Fluency is also about trying new things. Sometimes, you have to step outside of your comfort zone. I had a student who felt confident speaking in class, but was too shy to talk to others outside of school. I encouraged her to start speaking with people in different situations. At first, she was nervous, but as time passed, she became more comfortable and her fluency improved. It is also helpful to observe and learn from fluent speakers. Pay attention to how they talk, listen to the way they say words, and try to copy their speaking style. I had a student who admired a famous English speaker. She watched his videos and practiced speaking the way he did. This helped her improve her own fluency. Becoming fluent involves many things: regular practice, patience, listening, speaking, and learning from mistakes. Each of these is important. I once told my students, fluency is like cooking. You need different ingredients, and you must mix them well. This example helped them understand that all parts of learning matter. It is also important to appreciate small successes. Every time you remember a new word or speak without hesitation, take a moment to recognize your progress. I had a student who celebrated even the smallest achievements. This made her feel proud and gave her the motivation to keep learning. Noticing small improvements helps you stay encouraged. One day, a student asked me, "Teacher, what should I do if I forget what to say?" I told him, it is okay to pause and think. Take a deep breath, then continue speaking. This advice helped him stay calm when he struggled while talking. He learned how to manage his pauses, and over time, his fluency improved. Another helpful habit is using what you learn. If you learn a new word today, try to use it in a sentence tomorrow. I had a student who learned one new word every day and made sure to use it in conversation. This habit helped him remember words and use them naturally when speaking. One useful way to learn is by paying attention to the things around you. Sometimes, you can improve your English by reading signs, menus, or posters. I had a student who enjoyed walking around the city. Whenever he saw an English sign, he would stop, read it, and try to understand what it meant. This helped him learn new words and phrases that he later used in conversations. It is also important to learn about the culture connected to the language. English is spoken in many different countries, and each place has its own way of speaking. I had a student who was very interested in British English. He spent time watching British TV shows and learning about their customs. This made it easier for him to understand different ways of speaking, and it improved his fluency. Speaking well is not only about knowing words, it is also about how you express yourself. Your body movements and facial expressions add meaning to your speech. I had a student who was great at using body language. Even when he spoke simple sentences, his gestures made him seem more fluent. This helped him communicate better with others. Sometimes, it is helpful to push yourself outside your comfort zone. Try talking about something you are not familiar with. This helps you pick up new words and ideas. I had a student who loved sports, but he decided to practice talking about science. At first, it was difficult for him, but after some time, he learned new words and became more comfortable discussing different topics. Being relaxed is also an important part of fluency. When you are calm, it is easier to find the right words. I had a student who felt very nervous while speaking. I told him to take slow, deep breaths before talking. This helped him feel more at ease, and soon, his fluency improved. Another key to fluency is practicing what you learn. If you learn a new word today, try to use it the next day. I had a student who made it a habit to learn one new word each day and use it in a sentence. This helped him remember the words better and use them naturally in his conversations. Observing your surroundings can also help you improve. Sometimes, simple things like reading words on street signs, restaurant menus, or advertisements can teach you useful English. I had a student who liked exploring the city. Whenever he noticed an English sign, he would stop to read it and try to understand its meaning. Over time, this helped him learn new vocabulary and phrases that he could use when speaking. Curiosity about culture is also helpful when learning English. Many countries speak English, but the way people talk can be different in each place. I had a student who was very interested in how people in Britain spoke English. He watched British television shows and learned about their way of life. This gave him a better understanding of different accents and expressions, which made him more fluent. Fluency is not just about using words, it also involves how you move and express yourself. When speaking, your body language can make your message clearer. I had a student who was good at using gestures. Even though his sentences were simple, the way he moved made him look more fluent. This helped him communicate his ideas more effectively. Challenging yourself is a good way to learn more. Try discussing a subject that you do not know much about. This will help you discover new words and ways to express yourself. I had a student who loved to talk about sports, but one day he chose to practice discussing science. At first, he found it difficult, but with time, he learned new vocabulary and became more confident when speaking about different subjects. Being relaxed also helps with fluency. When you feel calm, speaking becomes easier. I had a student who always felt stressed while speaking. I told him to breathe deeply before talking. This helped him feel more comfortable, and after some time, his fluency got better. One great way to improve your English is by asking questions. When you ask questions, you start discussions. I had a student who was very skilled at asking questions. He would talk to his classmates about their daily activities, their favorite hobbies, and the things they enjoyed. This habit helped him become more fluent because he was always engaged in conversations. It is also important to think about your progress. Every few weeks, take time to reflect on how much you have improved. I had a student who kept a journal. Each week, he wrote about his English learning journey. This helped him see his progress, which gave him the motivation to continue practicing. Fluency also requires flexibility. Sometimes, you need to say things in a different way to make them easier to understand. I had a student who was great at this skill. If someone did not understand what he was saying, he would change his words until they did. This ability helped him become more fluent because he could adjust to different conversations. Another important tip is to stay connected with other learners. Learning with others allows you to share experiences and gain knowledge from each other. I had a student who joined an English-speaking club. She met with other learners every week to practice speaking. This helped her stay motivated and made her fluency improve. It is also helpful to set small goals. Instead of saying, "I want to be fluent," try setting a goal like, "I want to learn 5 new words this week." I had a student who followed this method. Every week, she set small, achievable goals. Each time she reached a goal, she felt more confident. Over time, these small achievements added up, and she became much more fluent. Fluency also requires persistence. Even when it gets hard, do not stop. I had a student who found learning English very difficult. Many times he thought about quitting, but he kept practicing. One day, he realized that his speaking skills had improved. His dedication helped him reach his goal. Sometimes, it is useful to go back and review what you have learned. Revisiting old lessons can strengthen your knowledge. I had a student who reviewed her notes every month. This helped her remember important lessons and gave her confidence when using the language. Another key to fluency is being open-minded. You will often hear different ways to say the same thing. I had a student who was very interested in learning about different English accents. He studied how people from various places spoke. This helped him become more adaptable and better at communicating in different situations. Enjoying the learning process is also important. Find something in English that excites you, whether it is a book, a song, or a movie. I had a student who loved reading English poetry. She read poems every day and tried to understand their meanings. This made her more passionate about the language and improved her fluency. Getting feedback is another great way to improve. When you speak, ask someone for their thoughts on how you did. I had a student who always asked me for advice after speaking. This helped him recognize what he was doing well and what needed improvement. Feedback is an excellent tool for becoming fluent. Using flashcards is another effective way to learn. Write new words on flashcards and review them often. I had a student who created flashcards for every new word he learned. He practiced with them daily. This method helped him remember words and use them naturally in conversations. Fluency also involves being comfortable with pauses. Sometimes, you need a moment to gather your thoughts before speaking. I had a student who felt nervous when there was silence. He thought he needed to respond immediately. I told him, it's okay to take a moment to think before speaking. This helped him feel more comfortable and made his speech clearer. It is also helpful to learn phrases instead of just individual words. When you learn full phrases, you understand how words work together naturally. I had a student who focused on learning common phrases. This made her sentences sound more natural and improved her fluency. Fluency also grows from curiosity about the world. When you learn about different cultures and ideas, you have more things to talk about. I had a student who loved studying history. Learning about different events and cultures gave him interesting topics to discuss, which helped him practice his English. The path to fluency is not always easy, but it is always worth it. Just like a river flows steadily toward the ocean, your continuous effort will bring you closer to your goal. Fluency is not just about speaking well, it is about making connections with others and sharing your ideas. Every new word you learn and every sentence you say builds a bridge to better understanding and new friendships. Mastering English requires a consistent, practical approach with real-life application. Here are specific strategies that can help you improve fluency and confidence in English. 1. Learn through conversations. Speaking is one of the best ways to practice. Start by asking simple questions to initiate discussions, such as, "What did you do today?" Or, "What's your favorite hobby?" A student I knew practiced by asking his classmates about their daily activities. Over time, he became more comfortable speaking and learned new words naturally. 2. Teach what you learn. Explaining new words or grammar rules to someone else helps reinforce your knowledge. One of my students, who was already fluent, decided to help her friends learn English. By teaching others, she not only improved her friends' skills, but also became even more confident in her own fluency. 3. Build a daily routine. Setting a daily study habit is essential. One student I taught practiced speaking for 30 minutes each morning. After a few months, his fluency improved because he was consistent. Try setting a goal like learning 5 new words a day and using them in conversation. 4. Use real-life situations. Apply English in everyday activities. If you go to a restaurant, order in English. When shopping, read product descriptions aloud. A student who worked in a shop practiced by speaking only in English with customers. Over time, he became much more confident. 5. Embrace mistakes and keep practicing. Many learners stop speaking when they forget a word. Instead, try describing it with other words. A student of mine followed this method and found that he could keep conversations going without feeling embarrassed. By applying these practical methods daily, learning English will feel natural, engaging, and effective. Keep practicing, and progress will come.